Macbeth, Act 4 Summary. Act 4, Scene 1. In a pivotal scene for the play, the witches gather in a cavern and cast a spell about a cauldron, which boils and bubbles. Hecate, goddess of witchcraft, appears and congratulates them on their toils. After Hecate disappears, Macbeth enters and commands the witches to answer his questions. The witches summon 3 ghostly apparitions, which deliver messages to Macbeth. The first is an armed head, which warns Macbeth to beware Macduff, the Thane of Fife. The second apparition is a bloody child, which encourages Macbeth, stating that none of woman born shall harm him. After this, Macbeth seems cheered and expresses confidence that Macduff is no threat to him. However, in a sign that he doesn't fully trust the witches' prophecies, he then resolves to have Macduff murdered to be doubly sure of his safety. The third apparition is a crowned child holding a tree. It tells Macbeth that he will never be defeated until Great Birnam Wood to High Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. Macbeth seems reassured by this, but then asks if the children of Banquo will ever rule over Scotland. Although the witches advise him not to ask this, Macbeth demands that they answer. Finally, a vision of 8 kings followed by Banquo appears before Macbeth, suggesting that Banquo's sons will indeed become kings, thwarting Macbeth's ambitions. Macbeth is desperate to know more, but the witches disappear. Suddenly, Lennox arrives with news that Macduff has fled to England. Macbeth then vows out of earshot to kill all of Macduff's family. Besides the references to the 3 prophecies Macbeth receives, an important line from this scene is Macbeth's violent and bloodthirsty decision to give to the edge of the sword Macduff's wife, his babes, and all unfortunate souls that trace him in his line. This line is particularly striking because of the depth of violence it exposes in Macbeth's character. Structurally, it signifies a shift from Macbeth's previous murders, which, though horrific, could be explained as serving his ambition for power and safety. His order to murder Macduff's wife and children as well present his state of mind as unhinged and corrupted. He now truly has moved from fair to foul, as the witches prophesied. Act 4, Scene 2. In Macduff's castle in Fife, Lady Macduff discusses with the Thane of Ross why Macduff has fled to England without his family. Lady Macduff is convinced he has abandoned them and loves us not, whilst Ross assures her of Macduff's wisdom and good judgment before departing. Then, in a somewhat tender exchange, Lady Macduff tells her son that his father is dead and was a coward. But the son jokes with her, knowing this to be a lie. A messenger then arrives, warning them to leave the castle as enemies are on the way. She refuses, saying she has done no harm. Macbeth's murderers arrive and kill Lady Macduff and her son. A key quote from this scene is Lady Macduff's bitter realization that I am in this earthly world where to do harm is often laudable, to do good sometime accounted dangerous folly. She is essentially saying that evil deeds are praised or celebrated, while doing good is foolish. In highlighting that they will die even though they are innocent, Shakespeare uses contrast to create pathos, a sympathetic response to Lady Macduff's pitiable position. It mirrors the twisted and corrupted world prophesied by the witches in the play's opening scene, but also reinforces the overwhelming villainy of Macbeth at this stage in the play. Act 4, Scene 3. In the final scene of the act, Macduff visits Malcolm, Duncan's eldest son and heir to the throne of Scotland. Macduff informs Malcolm of the great suffering of Scotland under Macbeth's kingship. Malcolm, however, is suspicious of Macduff and decides to test his loyalty by lying about his own qualities. In an unusual exchange, Malcolm highlights 3 fake vices or sins. First, lust, which is an unhealthy sexual desire. His next is avarice, or a desire for money. And finally, he says that he would bring chaos and suffering to Scotland. While Macduff accepts the flaws of lust and greed, when Malcolm claims he would uproar the universal peace, Macduff cries out in despair, "Oh, Scotland! Scotland!" At this, Malcolm relents and tells Macduff that he was false speaking in order to test him. They both decide to invade Scotland with the aid of 10,000 men from England. Finally, Ross arrives to tell Macduff the desperate news that his wife and children are dead. Macduff seems broken by the news, and Malcolm assures him that revenge will cure his grief. A key quote from this scene is Malcolm's metaphorical description of Scotland. Shakespeare uses personification as Malcolm laments that it weeps, it bleeds, and each new day a gash is added to her wounds. With both the feminine pronoun her, and along with the gory image of blood and violence, Shakespeare seeks to emphasise the depths of Macbeth's cruel and ungodly kingship, confirming his status as a tyrant in the eyes of the noble Malcolm and Macduff. Once more, Shakespeare employs the motif of blood and violence, but this time in the mouth of Malcolm, the rightful king, who will bring about justice in response to the bloody actions of Macbeth.